Hi, honey.
Hi, welcome to Call Your Mom with McKylin. That's me. And my mom, Holly Rowe.
Hi, honey.
There you go. Good job. We're
So,
still working on the
so
intro. It's been a
are we
year
gonna?
of this.
It's been a year. We're still workshopping it. Are we gonna tell the listeners the sorrow we've known?
We're
Nobody
idiots.
knows the
We're dumb.
sorrow we've known.
Yeah, we're dumb.
We're not
Um,
dumb. We're not dumb.
no, the,
Technology has thrown us for a couple of loops this week.
I think, I don't know. I think that the jury's in or whatever. It's idiot town.
So speaking of idiot time, I can only see half of your face right now in your framing. Can you frame yourself better so
I can
you're
see
in the
my
shot?
frame. I'm completely in the middle of the frame.
Okay, but to me, I see half of your face, so I don't know what that means for our viewers.
Well, what's wrong with your camera?
I look like I'm completely centered. Do you see my whole face?
What do you mean you can only see half of my face? See, this
I
is what I'm
can
talking about.
I can only see half of your face right now. Can you slide
What's
there we
blocking it?
slide over. Oh, there we
I
go.
can see the I'm completely, what do you mean,
Now
turn my face?
no, now you're only half of your face. Back up a little. Back up a little. Come over. There we go. There we go. This is the
Yeah,
finest pod. This is podcasting 101.
everybody has a podcast. It's official. I
But
was
how do
just
they know how to
looking,
do all the technology stuff better than we do?
well, I guess all the ones I see are famous people, which I think
So
is not fair. Well, you're
they probably have
famous,
helpers,
but
right? Is what you're saying? Like they might have
yeah.
production assistants and
Yeah, it's a dumb actor and an intelligent reporter who we're just not
we're a
we're
mom and pop organization or a mom and son organization.
a mom and son organization. We're about half a brain cell in between the two of us.
That's not true. I think we are very intelligent people. This equipment just gave us a little flummox. So what we've learned, we bought all this very expensive, nice podcasting equipment. But what we learned
Mm.
is if you plug it into devices that are too old, they don't read it and react. So we had to buy new devices. So you're welcome. New phones. We've upgraded our phones. So hopefully this podcast is sounding the best it's ever sounded.
It better sound good. If it doesn't sound good, oh my goodness, I'm
Yeah.
gonna I for the whoever's listening. Thank you for listening, but
It's
oh.
been a challenge. It's been a
Anyways,
challenge.
what's going
All right.
on? How's life?
Rocking and rolling. So let me tell you what's going on. Your mother is on a wild adventure. And
Okay.
I've had some wild adventures in my life. Some we can share on the podcast, some we can't. But the women's NCAA tournament is tipping off today, the day of recording, and I am attempting to do something that I don't know if it's ever been done before. I know I've never done it before, and I've been working the NCAA tournament for over 20 years. So I
Mm-hmm.
am in LA. The UCLA Bruins are the number one overall seed in the women's tournament.
Good for
First
them.
time in school history. USC is also a number one seed and hosting. These campuses are about 12 miles apart, but in LA time, that's like an hour away.
Yeah.
And I am going to attempt to do every game at both sites. So I will have 6 games over the next 4 days, and it's going to be wild. I'm covering 8 different teams, going back and forth between UCLA and USC. So buckle up, honey. It's going to be an interesting weekend for mama.
That sounds why. Why are you doing that?
Because I want
It
to.
sounds cool, but it sounds exhausting as well.
Well, uh, that's funny you asked me why. It never even occurred to me why I wouldn't do it, to be honest.
Okay, no, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, because 2 number 1 seeds, I guess it starts with this. So ESPN does not have the rights to Big Ten women's basketball anymore. And so
Okay.
I've gone all year this year for the first time ever, not doing a Big Ten women's basketball game. So you might
Hmm.
know UCLA, USC are now in the Big Ten. So this is an opportunity for me to see two number one seeds, UCLA, USC. I will see them moving on if they win, moving on to the next round in Spokane. So I just thought this was a really good opportunity to see great teams, good basketball, and not only them, but the other teams that are in this region that I could see moving on. So I don't know. It never occurred
That
to me
that
not to do this.
well, and I'm me always cynical, but that just sounds like a lot of work. So I'm impressed. I'm
It is
impressed,
a lot
slightly
of work.
worried.
Yeah, it is a lot of work. I'm slightly worried too because I spent about 6 hours in the gym today. We went to practices for the Richmond Spiders, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, the
Mm,
UCLA Bruins, and the Southern Jaguars. And then tomorrow, I will have USC Trojans, UNC Greensboro, Cal Bears, and Mississippi State Bulldogs. So lots of teams.
interesting. I did see something. So is what team is Don Staley for again? They're South Carolina, right?
Yes,
Yeah. Why? So they didn't get number one seed.
they got a number one seed. They're just not the number one, the top. So they're four number one seeds, but the number
Okay.
one overall seed is considered the best. And so they would play the worst number two seed. So they do it in what's called an S curve, which this is
Yeah.
impossible for me to explain to you, honey, without a bracket and really breaking
No,
it
it's fine. We don't
down.
have to
But
go. We don't have to go into it all the way. But it's more. I thought that was interesting because I saw her do an interview. She's a fascinating lady. But she was talking about how mad she was that like they I guess had a number one seed overall season. She was saying,
right. So
but
she thought they should be the number one overall seed, which means the top number one seed, because they
okay.
played the hardest schedule. They had 13 quad one wins. They challenged themselves with games against UConn, UCLA, or excuse me, USC.
Hmm.
Like they really challenged themselves. So you did see that interview because it was with me, honey. So that's why and where you saw that interview.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that coming back to
I,
you now that maybe the interview was with your mom?
there's a chance. That's probably why it was in my feed. That would make sense. That makes sense. You're all over the place. You're getting you got like now. What was that? What was the thing with the Heisman too?
So the
I'm
Heisman
tired. I'm
Trophy.
not. I'm not. I want to be. I'm to be clear for the listeners. I'm tired. I'm not a bad son. Well, maybe. Who knows? What was it?
So the Heisman Trophy, the Heisman Trust did a really nice post today for Women's History Month, and they wanted to celebrate me for Women's History Month, which I thought was really
Yeah,
special. You know,
as they
I'm a
should.
Heisman voter. Maybe our listeners don't know this story, but this is actually a true story. So, just growing up, I watched the Heisman Trophy, who won the Heisman my whole life. Love the Heisman. It's just been a huge part of my life, childhood fandom. And as I worked hard in college football, I got a Heisman vote. So to me, I get to vote on the Heisman Trophy, which is one of the greatest honors of my life as a young girl that wanted to play college football and couldn't because of my gender, to grow up and at least get to be a Heisman voter. That's pretty cool. And when I
Yeah.
was going through cancer, I was doing this is a really dark story, but this is true. When I was going through cancer and things weren't looking so good and we weren't sure if mom was going to make it, I started kind of planning out my funeral and kind of planning some of my, like burial stuff or whatever. And
Hmm.
I wrote down in my instructions that I want my tombstone to say, Holly Rowe, mother, Heisman voter. It's such an
You
honor.
wanted that on your. You wanted that on your tombstone.
Yes. And don't make fun of me. It's something that matters to me because it means a
On your
girl in football
tombstone.
ascended to the highest part she could.
On your tombstone.
Yes. Don't make fun of me.
What?
I can put whatever I want
There's
on
got
there.
to be a better. There's a better thing to put on your tombstone. Like something. Uh, Heisman voter.
I,
I mean, I don't hate. I love that you love it. I love the Heisman. The people that run the Heisman are amazing. I'm a huge fan. Just
They
for
are
a
wonderful
tombstone.
people. But
That's just such a
it's
wild
like,
tombstone.
it's something that's like, what matters to you? What's special to you? And college football is a huge part of my life and something that is special to me.
It's not okay. Not just like well, yeah. What would you really do? That's it. It's just those two things. It's
No,
just mother
mother's
Heisman
number
voter.
one.
I said it's those
Numbers,
two things. I know.
yeah. Maybe daughter, sister, mother.
Yeah, like sister, mother, sister. Just the Heisman voter thing. It's threw me a through. Also, fun fact for the listeners: somebody never even told me that they were stage 4. I didn't even find out until after. So I
Oh,
didn't know this. I didn't know any of that.
well, it's not a conversation. You just pop home and be like, "Hey, honey, so I have cancer. The way they stage cancer, 5 is when you die, and right now mom's number 4." You don't tell that to
Yeah,
your kids. You don't say
yeah,
that
you
to
do.
your
I was an
kids.
adult. I was 20. I was 21.
Yeah, but I'm not
Maybe you
gonna
should.
I'm not gonna freak you out like that.
I guess. Okay. I don't know. That's just. It's funny. It's funny to look back on now.
Right. The only reason we
But
can look back on this and
yeah.
chuckle is
What?
because I've I have survived.
You made it through.
Yeah, no, I'm
It is
lucky,
funny though,
honey.
because what would the other option be? Just like, oh, I guess it was pretty bad. Like what? I have to. Oh, she wanted a Heisman voter on her tombstone. She what? She was stage 4. Like what?
What? This is all coming as a
Just
shock to you.
yeah, just
Yeah,
all this news.
it's awkward. We were talking about this with Coach Katie Schumacher Colley last podcast, just about
Yeah.
how you handle a cancer diagnosis with your kids and your family. It's kind of tricky. Like, I definitely wanted to tell you because you're my person and we're a team, and I definitely wanted your love and support and didn't want you to be in the dark. I do remember going to an appointment once with the doctor and him telling me, does your family know about how serious this is? And have you shared this with your family? Because I would go to most of my appointments in LA by myself. And I said, yeah,
Hmm.
they know. And he's like, well, what exactly do they know? So I do feel like my doctor was trying to gently
Get you to
prod
tell
me
everyone.
to, well, everyone knew I had cancer. I didn't know I had to be like, so listen, folks, this is not looking good.
I mean,
It's
it's
awkward.
probably good to know if you're looking down a gun barrel. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
Thinking back on it, I'm like,
I know.
it's probably good to be like, hey, there's a chance one day you're
I
gonna
mean,
get a phone call.
I don't know if I even really wanted to process that.
Oh,
Like,
I
I
see.
look back on some of the stuff the doctor said to me during that time. This is a funny story, actually. So I remember having an appointment. My doctor was out of town, and so I had to go in for a checkup and my chemo with kind of a substitute doctor. And the new doctor, his bedside manner was not that gentle, but he was very funny and nice. And he said something like, "Well, this time last year we weren't sure you were going to make it, but now it's looking like you're going to make it. And so we need to start talking about you losing some weight because I had gained a lot of weight. One of the side effects of my drug was insatiable hunger and thirst, the drug I
Mm.
was on. And I was like, I'm not really sure I knew until you just said that maybe I wasn't going to make it. It's you just don't know how to process this stuff, honey. It's very odd.
It's very odd. It's weird. I think that is one thing that one reason I like comedy and stuff is just there's no other response than to laugh. Like I do kind of get annoyed when you watch a movie about it or something, and like the whole movie's so saccharine, and it's like, oh, the cancer, oh, like My Sister's Keeper or something, where it's like, oh, Cameron
Hmm.
Diaz, she has cancer, and it's like I part of it is pretty funny. Like it is, it's not exactly like a fun experience. It is dark, but
It
I
is
mean,
dark, but we laughed a lot, and I
just
think,
such a weird, yeah,
yeah, I feel like I laughed a lot because I felt if you're not laughing, you're crying, and you get to choose
yeah,
which one of those you want to be. So
yeah.
we laughed a lot and we joked a lot about, being bald. And I remember joking a lot about all the different places they would have to jab me with needles because my veins were collapsing and I was out of veins for my chemo. And so we'd joke about, oh, well, I remember having my last chemo stick because I did not want to get a port. A lot of cancer survivors will know this. Port is something they put in your chest and they can just put a needle into it. And so an easier process. But I was
Mhm.
traveling so much and I just thought, well, I've always got my work bag over my arm. I don't want to have a port in my chest. So I would just have them stick me everywhere they possibly could. I had
Ugh.
chemo in my thigh once. I had chemo in my calf once. But my final chemo appointment, just imagine this, I was in my index finger, right here on the side of my index finger was the last vein they could find. But
Yikes.
but if you weren't laughing, you were crying. So you just make it work. How did we get on this dark topic?
It's not dark.
Where
You
did
know
you
what?
take
If you
us
think
down
it's
this?
you could you brought it up because you wanted to put the Heisman Trophy on your the
Oh,
Heisman voter on your tombstone. That's so dark. I'm trying to think what I would want on my tombstone. Boo. I guess if I'm doing it now, what would I want now? Ooh, that's a tough question. What would I want on my tombstone now? Because the thing is, you can't like. I guess you put son, so
you
that's
could put
good.
awesome son. Awesome son.
Yeah,
I was an awesome son.
his son's good. I would maybe want to just freak people out. Just put like amazing son, father, and
And
award-winning
people would be
writer,
like,
and then just
people would be like, wait, what? He had a child?
he did,
What?
and leading member of the NWACP.
NWACP, McKylin. That's
No,
not even a
sorry,
thing.
NAACP. Sorry. I was trying to think of two different things at the same time.
I thought
But yeah,
you were going to say leading fan of the WNBA, and then you
no,
went with
no. Mm.
WNACP. What did you?
I like the WNACP. I don't know what the hell that was.
None of us
I
do.
wouldn't. I'm sorry. I love the WNBA. You're not going on the tombstone. I think I'd want mine to be something funny. I'd have to have a joke. Because that's how I run away from my feelings, and I've convinced myself that I'm funny. So it's a nice little double edged
Yeah,
sword.
it
Okay, I
is.
had a question.
Yes.
So I was watching this interview with Anthony Mackie. He said something interesting that it doesn't completely apply to us, but it was such a fascinating thing about like raising your kids. We never really had this though, because I guess I always was. But where you did whenever you was I the man of the house? Would you say? Did you have did was that like a did you think about that conversation at all? I didn't. I don't think so either. I feel like you were both.
No, I feel like I was the man of the house, and
Yeah.
I I remember several mother and father's days. Like you would give me something for Father's Day. I would have people send me like Happy Father's Day messages
Mm,
sometimes, because I was, single mom doing it for the people. So I also did not want to put that responsibility on you. I didn't feel like I wanted you to just be a kid and have a childhood, even though you
mm,
did have a lot of responsibility and had to be very independent because of my work schedule. You had a lot of time on your own, but I didn't ever want you to have like responsibility. What one thing that's made me really angry watching college sports these days, and I know everybody's situation's different and
well, I mean,
everybody's
you talk
financial
about that
life
a
is
lot.
different, but like
Yeah.
there's all these parents that they're putting pressure on their kids in college to pay their bills. Like I would
Yeah.
die, I would beg on the street before I would let you pay one of my bills. And so seeing these parents, I remember having a coach told me this year and it broke my heart that a young man didn't want to deposit his scholarship and paychecks, that they're getting from college football these days into his account because his family was taking the money out so fast that the kid couldn't get any money because his family was taking it.
Jeez, Jeez
I'm
Louise.
serious. And so I
That's a
just
nightmare.
yeah, I've always been really big on parents need to be the responsible ones. And even if you're poor, like we were poor, when you were
Yeah.
young, we were poor. We had plenty of days where I was worried about paying the rent or paying the mortgage or paying for your daycare or all those things, so I'm not
Hmm.
preaching like spending a cakewalk for us either, but I would never make my kids pay my bills. Like I would never, ever ask that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good motivator. I definitely would want to get to somewhere where I could. Um, for sure. That's kind of the goal. I think it's good to want to pay somebody's. bills, but to have that pressure, like you need to, that's a kind of a different thing.
Right.
From if the parent is saying you have to pay my bills, that's I think it's
That's
just
different.
it.
Yeah,
It
like
also
something
takes out.
Angel Reese just did something really cute where she retired her mom. So she paid
Yeah,
off her mom's mortgage and stuff so her mom doesn't have to keep working. Now that's
yeah,
something different. That's cute because her mom could keep working, can pay her own bills, all that stuff. She just
but
wants
it's
to do
like
it out of love for her mother. That's different
yeah,
than I have to send money home every month because my mom can't make it on her own. Now listen, I know there's parents that have
but I
health
mean it's
concerns and blah blah blah, but
yeah,
I
it's
just would
depends.
never want that for myself.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
it depends. I mean, people, it's sports is so fascinating because it's like it's kind of messed up. It's like you need to get so good at this game so that you can save your family. Like it's a weird. You get so pitted against kind of everything to just be a supporter. Like even if you're poor and you don't like your situation, you have to do this thing, which is so it's dark.
It's a lot of pressure on young people.
Yeah,
But there's other ways to do it too instead of just
camaraderie.
sports, and I just feel like for whatever reason we put a lot of that into sports, but you could put a lot of pressure on your kids like you've got to go to college and get your degree so you can go to medical school or you can become a lawyer
Yeah,
or there's a lot of other ways maybe because we're in sports we just see it more in the sports world, but I'm sure there's pressure on
yeah.
kids to go to college and
Well, it's also it's not. I think the tough thing is it's not linear. Like if you are from a family that is poorer and your family wants you to be like a doctor or something, there's a linear kind of progression. You know, you go, you do that, you do A, you do B, you do C, you'll be a doctor. But like with sports, it's such a gamble. But I mean, what am I saying? I want to be an actor. I am an actor, so like I
I was
can't
going to
talk.
say you're in a
But
little bit of the same thing where you're going to have to work really really hard and it's a gamble on if your career will make it. It's challenging, but I also believe you have to go after what you're passionate about and what you love,
yeah,
and then you'll be
I'm not
happy
big
on
on
the
the
journey. You'll be happy on the
yeah.
journey to get there, right?
I would not change. I've been in New York for 9 years, and I wouldn't change. I wouldn't want to like go back in time, or if a genie gave me a wish and was like, you get to be Batman at 25. I don't know. Well, I mean, I'd probably say yes, but if I could change it, I don't really think I would because the 9 years of I was actually talking about this today. 9 years of working all these different kinds of jobs, meeting all these kinds of people, going through all these different kinds of problems and processes. It does make you a better person. Struggle makes you better in every situation. I think any type of struggle makes you better. Like
I
it's
agree.
proven. I mean, if you it's you go to the gym. The gym is just struggling. I was training with somebody today and we were just laughing about how like that's kind of the whole point of the gym is just to come and you need to suffer a little bit and then you're better on the other end. You always feel better.
Yeah, it's almost like how a muscle can't get strong until it's taxed, and you almost have to
Yeah,
break the muscle down with reps and fatigue for the muscle to grow. That's kind
yeah.
of like life. If you don't break it down through reps and fatigue and getting tired and working hard, how do you grow? How do you get better?
I'm making this short film right now, and one big thing I was thinking about is I was like, because it's short films aren't exactly like a great. It's not like oh I'm gonna make if I do this this and this I'm gonna make a bunch of money off of it. It's very much a passion thing and it's a practice and it's a skill and it's an opportunity. There's a bunch of other stuff, but um, I had this thought while I was working on it because it's tough to it's just a lot of things and it's not a lot of things that I particularly you're not excited to like make a call sheet. You know, it's a lot of stuff like that and or like sit and figure out a budget and talk with your DP for 4 hours about where you can save money. But and I'm producing it as well, so it's all kind of my deal. And one thing I kind of kept thinking is I was like, well, it would be scarier to not ever do this and just say I wanted to do something like that than to actually do it.
Right.
I think there I think like the scarier thing to always think about whenever you do something is it would be so much scarier to be in your 50s looking at all the stuff you didn't do than to
The
fail.
regret.
Yeah, I would rather be 29 and just eat my shoes, hit my face on the ground, just scrape every knee I can and fail horribly. I'd rather go down in flames at 29 and be like, "Well, I tried so hard and
Mm-hmm.
gave it my all." It's so much it's a better feeling than being like, "Oh, I thought about it." Cuz what else do we do?
I believe firmly the only failure is not trying.
Yeah.
I remember distinctly getting out of college. When I got out of college, I struggled. I was doing internships. I was working four jobs at one time. An
Mhm.
overnight shift at a radio station, a full-time job, cleaning buildings at night. Like I worked and worked and worked. And I remember running into this guy at the airport that I'd been in college with, who we were both like the anchors of the student news show. And, we were both going to make it and had all these big dreams. And I remember running into him at the airport, let's say 5 years after we got out of college. And I had gotten on and was just doing very entry level work at ESPN, and he had taken a marketing job. Is he had gotten offered a deal for $200,000 a year at a marketing company, and he said, I tried to do the broadcasting thing, and I tried for a while, but I got this big offer making $200,000, and I just felt like I had to go that direction. And he's like, but I'm so proud of you. You stayed and you chased your dream. And I just didn't have the heart to tell him in that moment. I did, and I am on ESPN, and I did chase my
Mhm.
dream and stuck with it, and I am making $15,000 a year. I am
Yeah.
making $1,000 a game to do football games, and I'm doing 15 games a year for ESPN. And then the rest of the year, I'm starving, and my child is starving, and I'm working odds and ends and trying to make ends meet so I can support my child. And I'll never get over that, because in his mind, I was living the dream, but he had no idea I was so poor. But the
Yeah.
dream was the dream and was making me happy, but I didn't have the money to show for it. But that wasn't the happiness. The happiness was that I stuck with my dream. So,
It's the key. I have friends right now. I have one friend who he just booked like he got like top billing in a movie, and it's little stuff like that. We went to acting school together, and I'm like, all right, it's happening right there. I'm right. We're right. It's right next to me. It's better
possible.
to it's better to focus on the things that are happening instead of what I don't have. Like I think the easiest thing to do with dreams is just wake up and be like, I guess I'm gonna go. You get sucked into like you have to be sucked into real life anyways, so why focus on it? I'm gonna have to deal with paying rent. I'm gonna have to deal with utilities. I'm gonna have to deal with a boring Friday night and not having enough money for food. I might as well enjoy the dream and like spend the day writing a script for a movie or
Mhm.
learning how to code because I want to make a website to help people in need buy shoes. Whatever your dream is, it's
Right.
I think that's important. I do think it's also important for the people who don't follow their dreams and they decide they want to be a doctor because they think that it's their calling. I think that's also amazing. I think that's another form of a dream.
Yeah,
I think those
everybody's
people don't
dreams
get
are
enough
very
love.
different and look very different, and
Yeah.
who's to say that ours are better or worse than anyone else's? But I do think there's a lot of people. I have so many people that will come up to me like at a speaking engagement or a game or whatever, and they'll say, I should have been you. I wanted to do your job. Like there are people that have regrets that didn't go after that thing they loved and cared about. And I guess what I would say to them is it's never too late. I ran across a woman
Yeah.
recently that has just gone back to college. She's trying to get her journalism degree, and she's got three or four little kids at home, but she's not going to let that stop her. And she's going to keep trying to be a sports journalist because she loves it and cares about it. So, like, it's never too late. I'm always inspired by those stories you see of the 81-year-old that just graduated from college. You know,
Hmm.
the people that are like, I am never going to give up on doing those things that like one day I want to do XYZ. The one thing I will say is, just going back to that period when I had cancer, I started doing a lot of stuff. And, we sometimes people call it a bucket list, But
Hmm.
I was really very mindful of I want to do my someday things every day. Like one
Yeah.
day I'm going to do that. One day I'm going to live in New York City. So when I was in cancer, we got an apartment in New York City and we did that because that was one of my dreams. Um,
Hmm.
one day I'm going to be in a band. I learned how to play the piano and did a little band concert with some of my girlfriends. Like I think that was a really happy time in my life because I didn't put off my some days and one days. I was living those every day. And I thought that was a really important thing to do. And I got to get back to doing that because sometimes you get out of the dark part where you're like, okay, I'm a survivor, I'm surviving. Now let me just get back to the grindstone and to work instead of let me keep living that very intentional way.
I have chaos theories. We'll just do one of
Oh, go
them.
for it.
Let's see
I
what we
did not
got.
do one, but you go
We
for
got
it.
to be better at doing chaos theory. That's like our
All
thing.
right. I promise next week I'll be better. Mom's got a lot of work on her hands right now.
I mean, we have a whole episode of this podcast talking about scheduling problems. Also, this haircut is terrible, and I need to go. I just hate it. The guy he lined me up, and I'm like, you shaved my hairline back, and I already had a bad, whatever. Okay,
We digress.
we digress. So, chaos theory. What is one thing from your past that you miss and you think about a lot?
Oh my gosh, going to the club and dancing till 3 a.m.
You do that now. I've seen you. You met 50 Cent. I've seen you do that.
Right, but I only do it like maybe once a year now instead of every weekend. I
I think
was one
that's
of those
healthy.
girls. I was never a big drinker. I grew up very Mormon, so I was not a big drinker through my college life. But I
Uh-huh.
would go to the club and I was that girl that would stay on the dance floor for 4 straight hours and be dripping sweat, just tearing it up. And I just miss that feeling. I loved dancing. I loved going, and not going to the club to drink or party, but just going to the club to be around music and fun and dancing.
I like it. I like it. I miss being able to just like spend an entire day playing with action figures. That was a great time. Let me tell you, I was good at it. I had storylines. I we didn't have a lot of money, but there's that thing called the DI, Deseret Industries in Utah. It's just
Oh,
a what do they call it? What's it called? It's
it's a
a
thrift
secondhand
store.
store.
So it's a
Thrift store.
Mormon thrift store. So anyone who lives in Utah, I think they have them in California and some western states too. But anytime you're getting rid of something, it's kind of like the Salvation Army. So people donate. But when you were young, this is a lot of information maybe I'm embarrassed to share, but I guess I'm sharing it anyway. Really up until like maybe 10 years ago, almost every piece of furniture in our house was from that thrift store.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
We
I
it
had
was
our whole house except for mattresses. We would not get thrifted mattresses, but
yeah.
dressers, I would buy dressers and paint them. I would buy dressers and strip them. Like all of that beautiful dresser that's really curvy and brown that I have in my bedroom. That was like painted blue, and I bought it at the DI and I hand stripped it. Remember the table we stripped from all the paint when we lived in Hermosa
Oh,
Beach? That was
that was a
from the Desert
nightmare.
Industries. That was a nightmare, but like
That
we have
table crossed the
rehabbed more
country.
furniture.
Yeah, we were a furniture rehab, and then they had toys there, and so I it was so great because they would be these really nice. I think I had a Millennium Falcon from that place. And
Yeah.
usually those toys were like $70 or $80, and we got it for like 10.
Yeah, we
That
would go
was
there.
oh yeah,
We would get stuff there, and then we would also do garage sales. And I still to this day
yeah,
love garage sales. Like I got a lot of really cool stuff because I think I have a
yeah.
good creative mind where I can see some horrible, crappy piece of furniture and I'll be like, I can make that nice.
I think that was the one of the best parts about being poor is you got to be creative.
Sure.
I you wouldn't be able to buy me certain toys that I wanted or as many toys that I wanted, but I'd have these other toys. And so this is so weird, but I remember when I was really young, I had a Scorpion King action figure, but then I wanted him to be some other action figure. And he was like the only brown action figure that I had because they didn't really make action figures that looked like me. And so what I did was I would just paint and tape costumes on him to make him other characters that I wanted him to be in other movies. And so I made him like an X-Men uniform because I was like, oh, I want to make like a brown guy that's an X-Man and stuff like that because you want to be, you got to be creative. You know?
Oh my gosh, I remember that. I don't know if I ever really processed why you were putting all that tape. You would put tape on it and then you'd put magic markers on it, like
Oh
draw it
yeah, I
and
would do that with all kinds of stuff. Because I always wanted to have black superheroes or whatever, so I'd make my own.
well, look how far you've come. Now Captain America's black. How amazing.
Look at that. That's who I was talking about when there was an interview where he was kind of talking about leaving his when he leaves the house, his kids are the man of the house, and I was like, I don't ever feel like I had to do that. But he was talking about how masculinity's kind of been trained out of the household, and I thought that was interesting because growing up without a dad, I feel like I still have it and grew up with a healthy version of it. But I also had men around that were good.
Yeah,
You know, we
you
had
had good
Dino
role
and
models. You had my dad, you had your Uncle Dean, you had my
yeah, your
brother,
dad. Yeah,
your
yeah,
nephew,
BJ.
and honestly, I tried to model good things for you. Like I tried to have tools around the house and like show us how to fix things or show us how to paint or tile stuff or
Yeah.
be handy fix it people or like I tried to, and not that I was perfect or did everything, but I definitely tried to have a mind. I would coach every single one of your sports teams so that you had a presence at all the sports stuff. So I tried to be all those things, honey.
Yeah, I think we did it. You did a good job. We did it.
We did
Advice to
it.
the parents: don't worry about your parent. Your teaching your kids masculinity. Life finds a way. Role models are everywhere if you just look hard enough.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother podcast. We need to talk about that one day, but like the way people are teaching kids these days, I feel like is much healthier because like when I was a kid, women played with dolls, women played with kitchen things, and now we have friends their kids are playing with cars and garages and tools and like w people these days are socializing their children, I feel like in a much healthier way instead of this is what girls do and this is the only lane you can go in if you're a girl and this is what boys play with and this is the only lane you can go in if you're a boy. So I feel like we're getting smarter of how we socialize children as we get older.
Yeah, I do feel bad because like it's not. I once your kid gets into school, that crap is gonna hit them anyways. You can't really stop. Like, there's gonna be girls that are like, "This is how you're supposed to be a cool girl," and you're gonna have guys that are like, "This is how you be a guy." Like, it's your
Yeah.
kid's gonna hit it no matter what. So
One
just
one
teach them
funny
to be
story
tough.
about just speaking of that. So I don't know for whatever reason, boys love guns. Like I did not allow you to have guns in the house. I
Because
was
they're cool.
very, very strict about you not having guns and not. I didn't buy you water guns. I didn't buy you Nerf guns. I didn't buy you any toy guns because I just was so
Hmm.
anti-violence. And one day you were sitting in your high chair. So you've got to be about 18 months old because you're still young enough to be trapped in the high chair. And I look over there and you have bitten a piece of toast into the shape of a gun and you're like like uh, what is it with men and their guns?
Well, you just think they're cool. What do you want? Girls like guns too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah. I don't know.
that's an evolutionary discussion for another day. All right, one more chaos
Well,
theory and we'll get out of here.
no, we're good. I
We're good.
accidentally threw them
Oh,
away.
last thing before you get out of here, are you going to did you fill out a March Madness bracket? Are you in a pool with any of your friends? Are you doing the brackets? I do not do a bracket for the women's tournament because I'm reporting on it and I like to remain neutral, which means even if I fill out a bracket, my pride is like, but I wanted this team to win because I put that on my bracket. So I never do a women's bracket just so I am completely neutral in my sports coverage. But
I'm not gonna
I will do
let
a men's.
I'm not gonna let the mainstream media force me into doing brackets and doing sports. I'm just kidding. I was lazy. I completely forgot about it. Yeah.
I love being
Forgot.
I do love being in like a pool of people with brackets. I've definitely done brackets before.
Yeah, I mean, I did a fantasy football once, and I got pretty addicted to it. I would check it constantly. I just need to actually take the time to do these things. I think that's the biggest problem. The second I don't pay attention, It's right out of my mind, and I couldn't care less. And I'll find a reason to pretend like I'm above it, and that's why I didn't do it. When really, I just didn't think about it, and I don't want to feel like left out. So I say I hate it because that's what
All
healthy
right. So
people do,
we
right?
so we will not do bracketology together then, is what you're
We
saying.
can do bracketology. I just am late to the game, and I think I've already missed some games. So,
Yeah, you missed a full day of games today. There's already been
oh,
some
shit.
upsets.
There you go.
Kansas lost.
Um,
Kansas lost.
oh, that sucks. I like Kansas.
I know
Is our
we
guy
love
still
Coach
there?
Self.
What's his name? Coach
He'll
Self,
sell.
Bill Self. Yeah,
Yep,
love
we
that guy.
love Coach.
Great guy. Lawrence,
All right, darling.
Kansas. Nice place. All right.
Yeah,
I
Lawrence,
love you.
Kansas. We love it. Mwah! I love you so
Thank
much.
you.
And everybody listening, please tune in to the Women's NCAA tournament. We have games coming up. Just turn on every ESPN channel all weekend long. I'm starting off my day 7:30 Eastern. I have got my first game, which is Georgia Tech Richmond, followed by UCLA Southern. So check those out. Lauren Betts, number one overall UCLA. And then so that's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Gigi Watkins, USC, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific.
But yeah. And then don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And if you haven't yet, if you know anybody who's gone through a hard time, or if you have, go to the joyus.foundation website and nominate them for a chance to go to the Final Four.
Yeah, we're giving away a trip for free for the Final Four to anyone who's gone through cancer, having a hard time, so we can bring a little joy to your life.
Yeah, we like joy. We're joyful. I don't seem or sound joyful right now, but
We're
that's
both
not really my
exhausted,
problem.
but we are filled with joy inside of our hearts, even though our bodies are
Yes,
tired. I love you,
exactly.
love. I love you,
Love
darling.
you.
Bye.
Good
Mwah.
night. Good luck.